Verdi Mitchell Brown. I've been a resident of Highland Park for 50 years. Came here in my youth, and thank goodness I've lived to be here when we had a great day in Highland Park. We moved to this community thinking that we could bring it up to a really positive level. When we moved here in Highland Park, Willie and I, pretty much it was a deserted area. I called everybody I knew and said, come to Highland Park, come buy a house. They're giving away the houses. We didn't get many takers, but those people who came were people who were very active and all about change. And we are the children of the 60s. So while I was, say, 15, I was marching in the South to desegregate. Willie had a life experience in Atlanta when he was at Morehouse. So it was nothing to do when we came here, but to continue our work to make changes and advancements for Black folk and all people, really. And one of the reasons that I was so intent on supporting this effort was because we had lost so many wonderful people who had made a real difference in the community, like Mr. Ed Cooper, who lived right next door. And I don't know how much people know about him, but he was a wonderful man, and he inspired us in our youth as he sat on his steps and said to us, you know, I think it would be a great idea to have a garden up the street and engage seniors with young people. So that was the vision. What do you all think? Oh, we think that's a great idea. Well, Mr. Cooper wasn't just a man of words, he was a man of action. And so not only do we have the Cooper Garden here, we have gardens all over the city through his work. So he was a visionary and he inspired, all of Boston, really. When you see these gardens, Ed Cooper was the visionary.
By recognizing people have been here for at least 25 years. Anybody want to give comments on the significance of today? What we're doing?
Bringing people together that haven't seen each other in 30 years. So I am a child of Highland Park, lived here from 1949 to 1980. And growing up, I always said this was the best place to be.
Good morning. My name is Hakim Raquib, photographer for today's great day in Roxbury, the Elders Shoot. I think it's going to be okay. It's a very bright day, fall day here in Roxbury, in front of these two beautiful brownstones. And let's see if we can get it done. I look forward to it. As I look around, I see a lot of old friends here. It's wonderful. Well done.
Akela and Jean.
In the film industry.
I've been here 48 years.
I remember when it happened.
And what do you think about
there,
today's
my boys were very
photos?
Well, all the people that are here now are people that were here during the worst of times for the area. And they deserve to be recognized and acknowledged, definitely. No question about it. I remember when they were going to demolish these buildings, the buildings here, because they were neglected for at least a decade. These buildings that right here. So it's amazing that they're having this picture taken with some buildings that were scheduled not to be on the planet. So it's awesome.
This is awesome. It's fantastic. It's historical, and I wish Sam Sad was here. But for everyone else, amen to all of you, all your contributions, all your input. Hey, let's do this.
Hi, my name is Mark Schafer. I live right around the corner on 13 Highland Avenue, across from Page Academy. I've lived here with my wife and family for 16 years, and we had the incredible luck of landing right in front of the one of the jewels and central organizations of this neighborhood of Highland Park, which is Page Academy, founded over 50 years ago by Brother Joe Cook and Sister Angela Cook. And Brother Joe and Sister Angela did all kinds of things, from founding a theater, a community theater, to and then it became a freedom school, and then it became Page Academy, and then other people were also under the most trying circumstances, were holding on, we're building back, we're building up in all kinds of creative and committed and just incredibly persistent ways.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing this. I've been here for 45 years. Been in the same house for 39. It's been a wild ride.
Yes? What's made it wild?
I can't hear you.
What has made it wild?
Well, it was very dangerous in the old days. And there were summers when they never even cut the grass on the park. I'm right on the park. And they burned cars instead.
And you stayed?
I stayed.
The thing about the event today is that it's like a homecoming. You know, people, you haven't seen, like a friend right there, we went to school in this area, went down to the Timothy. And as a matter of fact, I taught at the Timothy for 35 years. And this was the area that I lived in before I became a teacher down at the Timothy. And then I've just seen a lot of people that I haven't seen before. So I just love it to know that folks are still around, you know, and we're still standing.
I'm Paige Cook. I have been living here in Roxbury since I was born here and grew up on Highland Ave. I'm a part of Page Academy, a nursery and elementary school that has been here in existence, operating, working with young children and families since the 70s. This is my neighborhood, and I just feel a lot of pride to be a part of this community. I got involved with this Elders Project mainly because of the work that I do here at Page Academy, and a lot of the families connected to the school are connected from the neighborhood, and we end up having conversations and sharing stories and sharing memories. The stories are just so heartwarming, they're so funny, they're so important, and there are always little gems and little details that are dropped in the story to kind of give context to the people who are here, how they've impacted the community, different efforts that people have made, and just really important interactions that I always feel so privileged to be a part of and to hear. And I always just had this dream of kind of capturing those stories and being able to share them with other people as well.
It's a great day in Roxbury for elders. I get to meet my neighbors. I get to talk to them and see them out here. It's nice to have like a block party, right? This is the first block party after the January 2020, so I'm into it. I'm into it. It's good to see you too.
I think this is a wonderful thing. I'm a relative newcomer to the neighborhood. I've only been here about 20 years, and it's great to see all the folks who've really made Roxbury and this neighborhood what it is today. And it's nice to see them come out because it's kind of gets lost in everything that's going on. Property values rising, and you go, where are our neighbors? And it's nice to see them all come in here and be together once again.
Now, anybody, please come to the mic. I want to give a shout out to Uncle Mel. Yes, Uncle Mel King. Even though he was in the lower part, he and my dad worked together, and I just grew up with parents who were at that grassroots critical period in Roxbury. And Uncle Mel's not here. Auntie Pamela, Auntie Joyce, they're not here, but they definitely are part of making this neighborhood and Roxbury what it is today. So shout out to them, shout out to Mel, to the King family.
Hi, I'm Randy Foote, and I'm standing here in Highland Park, Fort Hill. The tower behind us, built in the 1850s to supply water to the neighborhood, gravity feed. This is the park that George Washington and his generals set up to help drive the British out of Boston in 1775, so it's got a great history here. I first moved here in 1968. The first big thing is when they were going to build the highway, I-95, going down Columbus Avenue. That was a monstrous highway, and when I moved up here in '68, pretty much all of Columbus Avenue from Eggleston down past Ruggles was bulldozed. All of that was taken by the state for the highway. You know, where Melnia Cass is, that was going to be, you know, there's going to be a gigantic interchange at the old Whittier Street projects, you know, like a, you know, one of those 8-lane over 8-lane cloverleaf interchanges, which is one reason that this neighborhood really was abandoned, because the highway was going to be right down there. So highways will create dead zones. I mean, Chuck Turner, who lived right behind us, was the spearhead in this area to stop the highway. Chuck knew that you had to make alliances with folks in Cambridge and Milton and Jamaica Plain. So that alliance stopped the highway, and it was the first time in the country that a interstate highway, which is federal money coming into the state, and the first time interstate highway was stopped. There was a lot of devastation here. Highland Park was known in the 70s as the arson capital of the United States. That everywhere you see a new building or a vacant lot were homes. There were people in the neighborhood fighting to rebuild it.
Jerry Hines. I've lived in the neighborhood since 1976. Actually, before that, 1973, I lived on Center Street. I've lived in this house on Kenilworth Street since 1976. So I'm one of the pioneers, so to speak, of the neighborhood. I lived here when really nobody wanted to be here, or not too many people wanted to be here. Well, I love that day because it felt like a family portrait. Family being people who are joined by their love of this neighborhood, their dedication to this neighborhood, and their commitment to everything that we've tried to do over the years to make it a wonderful place for us and our families. And it was just wonderful to see people in the flesh, people who you know are there, you feel their spirit, you know what they're about, but everybody coming together at the same time. It was a very warm and happy time to see everybody there. And just thinking about it, some of the people who were there that day are not here anymore. So it's a day to cherish, really. Well, there's so many stories that can be told from that photo, but what I remember most is the people who worked with the Roxbury Action Program, building Highland Park as a model neighborhood, bringing people together for housing, for community development, for economic development. And that's just a small part of what all of those faces represent. So many people did so many different things, but that's what I remember, because I joined with George Morrison and Lloyd King and Ed Cooper and all of those people who had a vision for the neighborhood and who worked very hard to make it happen. So all of those stories and other stories like that were represented in that photo.
My name is J.D. Garcia, John David Garcia, and I'm a resident of Roxbury, not born and raised here, from West Texas. I'm so grateful and thankful to have found my home in Roxbury. So Mark Schafer, Paige Cook, and I started having planning meetings together. We started sharing it with some of the neighbors and elders, and people started, talking and calling each other. It's like, hey, there's gonna be a photo shoot, and many of whom we said to us, I hadn't seen or spoken to my neighbor in a couple of years. And you've got to remember, this was during COVID, during the pandemic.
We decided we were gonna start this ball rolling, and later we found out other people were starting their own similar balls rolling, from Hawthorne Youth Community Center to First Church and the Roxbury Heritage Park. So clearly lots of people were thinking the same thing, and we got together, and the other goal was for the event to be a public acknowledgement, a public recognition, and we wanted it to come from younger generations, from people who grew up under the watchful eyes and hands and mentoring of and institutions that all these people had built up.
And give reverence to our elders, present and past. I said, outside in November on a cold morning like this, whose crazy idea was this? But then I said to myself, of course I'll do it, because of the sacrifices that were made on my behalf. Our elders must be valued as important bearers of not just Roxbury history, but of Boston history and culture, as meaningful participants in Roxbury's Highland Park community, and as givers and receivers of care. A great day in Roxbury's Highland Park cultivates cross-generational relations as the context for this to happen, reclaiming a communal ethic wherein all generations are seen as connected parts of a grand Highland Park kinship circle.
Kristen Belton Willis. My family and I grew up at 41 Hawthorne Street. Been here since 1970. Wow, I was asked to read a piece from Rashawn Scott, who grew up in Fort Hill Gardens. He was asked what his thoughts were on the elders of Fort Hill, and sat with the idea for a day and became a little emotional as he started to recollect on his childhood living on the hill. There are many elders that he can name who guided him through his youth, one being Samantha Sad, with HYCC, which always chokes me up, who he remembers taking us on field trips and exposing us to different experiences most city kids didn't experience. For myself, I just have to say, I grew up with Samantha Sad as pretty much my second mother. This just has always been an amazing community, and many of the people that were here at that time, I consider aunts and uncles, Wendy and John, and so many people. We just grew up as family here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Juju Brown, and I am a lifelong resident of Roxbury. I grew up the street on Linwood Square, and I just got really full with the love and the all of the dreams and inspirations and aspirations of the people whose shoulders we stand on. And I'm gonna start off by saying that the elders in this community helped me to understand and showed me how important it was to build a strong community. Not just to build a strong community, but to show love, to instill how important education was, and having God in your heart and in your life. That friends become family, and that we treat each other as such, and that we check on each other, and we made sure that our neighbors and friends were okay. And one of the people who many of the elders who I came up under were influenced by Edward Cooper, who is Grandpa Cooper to me. And when I was coming up, Grandpa Cooper was an elder already. He was already an older man. But he would always, I don't care how many times he saw me a day, he would be on his porch and he would say, "Hey, baby, what you up to? What's going on?" He would always check for you. You know, he would check for you and let you know that he cared. And he wanted to know what was going on with you and what was up with you. He sat on his porch. I watched him and Mr. Palmieri have this vision of turning vacant garages that we played in that weren't very safe. But we played in, and they had a vision and a dream along with others to turn that into an educational gardening space. And so they transformed it, and they did that. And for many years, it was those two doing the gardening. And over time, it grew. But the thing that really sticks with me is that they had dreams and aspirations and visions, and they made them come true.
The past isn't dead, it's not even past. And you can feel that in the elders of us being together who have been here for 50, 60, 70 years, and the whole community, the thread of time in the community that, you know, this is a revolutionary community. And the church, which is actually a meeting house, was a place of meeting, of people coming together. There is a spiritual thread holding people together, which I'm so glad that the church still does that, you know, and that God bless the urban ministry that they've restored the church, which is the centerpiece of the community.
Hi, I'm Reverend Mary Margaret Earl, and I'm the Executive Director and Senior Minister at the Unitarian Universalist Urban Ministry. And we are housed at the building and the campus that most folks in Roxbury know as First Church in Roxbury. And we were really proud to be part of the group of community members and organizations that sponsored the day in Highland Park called, I think it was A Great Day in Highland Park, honoring the elders of this community. We decided as an organization to be part of that because the history of a community and the people of a community are two of its most important resources. And this community has a depth of history and such a story to tell. And the people who were on the steps that morning were the people who made some of the most inspiring parts of that story real and possible. They're the people who protected this neighborhood against disinvestment, against all kinds of racist practices that happened in the government and in businesses. And they nurtured and kept a community whole and thriving. And it felt really special to me to be there that morning and see all these stairs filled with these amazing humans who had done this great work to really protect and nurture this community. So we couldn't be happier to have been part of it, couldn't be happier with the beautiful work that Hakim Raquib accomplished in those photographs, and hope that some of those voices on the steps that morning will have opportunity in the future to tell some of those stories so we can all hear and learn from them.
Another thing that felt urgent to me and some of the other organizers of this photograph is the fact that some of our elders are passing and have passed away. And I think we all had some people specifically in mind that we wanted to honor, and we wanted to really document whose existence and importance we wanted to document in this photo. And I think one of the people for me was Brother Brown. He's one of my neighbors, and I lived with him here. He was here when I was born, and I grew up with him. He's just, for me, a really important part of this community. And so it was wonderful because he always dresses to the T, so everyone dressed so beautifully, which was also just another wonderful part of just having people have space to get dressed and to express themselves and to share their style and their essence with one another was a beautiful part. But he came with Sister Bithyah, his wife, and it was just fantastic because he's in the picture. He recently passed away from cancer, and I also got some pictures of him solo, some portraits of him and some portraits of him with Sister Bithyah. So that was a really special and exciting moment for me as well. And his daughter Juju spoke, and all the things that were said there were also just very impactful, so I appreciated that as well.
Okay, let's wait a second. I see you, Mr. Posey. Turn that lid up.
Make it sharp.
This looks happy.
Hold on.
Are you sure you all elders? I don't know. All right, thank you. All right. This looks fantastic. Can you see me? This. Everybody can see this? 1, 2, 3.
How you doing? My name is Carlos Byron. This is a wonderful opportunity for most people to stand out here because of the fact that a lot of people have been ignored and things pass on by. So this is a good thing.
What are your thoughts? I think today's absolutely wonderful. I think it should be a university citywide event where all the elders are being photographed and documented for their work, their time, their love, their effort in our neighborhoods and before our time's up. Just not here, but across this city.
We have a neighbor that is going to say the names of some ancestors of Highland Park.
Thank you. How many of you guys remember Lena Kwan? Lena Kwan. She was a landowner up on the hill. She owned a good chunk of the property up there.
My name is George Rayner. I live around the corner, been here over 50 years. The main thing I see is all my neighbors, and we're all above dirt, and that's a wonderful thing. And to commiserate like this and to make a picture or photograph a time that will probably last long beyond me and my friends, it's just a gift.
Earlene Belton Willis, when she first moved here in 1970, she was the first African-American and first female developer, first African-American female developer in Boston and Roxbury. She did a lot to keep property in this neighborhood and develop property. My mom's an amazing woman, so shout out to Earlene Belton.
Look at you all set up and ready to go. Shoot, can't nobody say no. Can't nobody say no. How are you?
Hi, thank you. You look great.
Thank you. It's a great day in Roxbury for elders.
My uncle, who at 91 passed, and he left a sign up, and many people may have seen this, but it said, "Don't be afraid of life." So I send this message to the young people. Don't be afraid of life, but more importantly, don't be afraid to live this life. Step up your game. Follow your dreams. Do not be afraid. And if you are a religious person, then you would say, fear not. Well, the Lord is with you. Don't be afraid of life. And don't be afraid to live this life. I'm wishing you the best in all your dreams and opportunities.